As world leaders gather for high-stakes Ukraine war talks, the outcome remains uncertain, but the stakes couldn't be higher, with each key player pursuing its own strategic interests. The United States, having poured billions into military aid for Ukraine, sees the conflict as a crucial test of its global leadership and a means to weaken Russia without direct military confrontation. But growing war fatigue among American voters and an upcoming election could pressure Washington to push for a settlement that avoids further escalation. Meanwhile, Russia, despite economic sanctions and battlefield setbacks, remains steadfast in its demand for recognition of occupied territories, calculating that time is on its side, as Western unity shows signs of strain, and some European nations quietly push for negotiations rather than prolonged warfare. Ukraine, under immense pressure, refuses any territorial concessions and seeks long-term security guarantees akin to NATO protection, knowing that any compromise could set a dangerous precedent for future conflicts worldwide. However, the reality of dwindling military supplies and economic hardships means Kyiv must balance idealism with pragmatism. The European Union finds itself at a crossroads, with some countries, especially those dependent on Russian energy, hesitant to prolong the conflict, while others fear that appeasement would only embolden future Russian aggression, leading to a divided European stance that complicates negotiations. China, playing a delicate balancing act, publicly calls for peace while strategically supporting Russia's economy through trade and indirect assistance, seeing the war as an opportunity to challenge U.S. global influence and test the West's resolve without direct involvement. Interestingly, historical patterns suggest that wars of this scale rarely end through immediate diplomacy, but rather through exhaustion, and analysts predict that unless one side gains a decisive advantage, this conflict could mirror the frozen conflicts of the past, such as Korea or Georgia, where neither side officially concedes, but active fighting eventually diminishes. The financial cost of the war has been staggering, with estimates surpassing hundreds of billions of dollars, disrupting global supply chains and fueling inflation worldwide, a factor that may ultimately force reluctant nations to push harder for peace talks, especially as the economic burden weighs on their citizens. However, predictions remain divided, with some experts warning that a premature peace deal without solid security guarantees could lead to future aggression, similar to how the Minsk agreements failed to prevent this war. On the other hand, prolonged fighting risks drawing in NATO directly, especially if incidents escalate beyond Ukraine's borders, which could trigger a wider confrontation with catastrophic consequences. Meanwhile, secret back-channel diplomacy is likely already in motion, as intelligence agencies and advisors seek compromises that could bring an end to the war without either side admitting defeat. But with deep-rooted mistrust between Ukraine and Russia, even the most well-crafted peace deal faces immense challenges in implementation. The geopolitical impact of this war extends far beyond Ukraine, reshaping alliances, increasing global defense spending, and pushing countries like Germany and Japan to reconsider their military policies after decades of post-war pacifism. Even beyond military matters, the war has triggered a global energy crisis, forcing Europe to reduce dependence on Russian gas while accelerating the shift toward renewable energy, a long-term consequence that could alter global power dynamics beyond the battlefield. As these negotiations unfold, the world waits to see whether diplomacy can prevail over warfare, but history suggests that true resolution may still be far off, with the possibility of either a prolonged stalemate or an unpredictable escalation looming over the future of global stability.